Hello. Oh, look, I have the wrong thing pulled up. Hi, everybody. I hope that you're having a wonderful Taco Tuesday. I have a true confession. I kind of strained my voice yesterday. So this live today is going to be short and sweet because I have something really fun coming up later this afternoon and I want to have a voice for it. So if this is your first time tuning in, I always, this is the one thing about me that I have to get better about. I don't really do a full check on the video before I go live. And then I'll go live and I'm like, oh, I want to tweak the camera and oh, this is in the way. So if you do that too, you're in good company. I'm just letting you know. It's a pet peeve of mine that I'm just like, oh, I got to move things around. And I'm just like, I don't know why I have to do it. It's the perfectionist in me, the recovering perfectionist, right? I'm no longer a perfectionist. I'm a recovering one. But things absolutely show up from time to time. Hello, Sydney. So happy that you're here. I see Melanie's in the house. Hi. So, today we are talking about a few things. We're going to talk about today's podcast episode, all about having a co-host. Should you have one, the pros and the cons. But before we get there, today we have our podcast audit applications are closing. Hi, Shanita. I'm so sorry. She said hi first. Let me go back. So Shanita said, hey, Crystal. But that was when we were doing the countdown to start. Hi, Shanita. You get 2 extra hellos for that. Thank you so much for being here, hanging out with us on YouTube. Oh my gosh. The fact that it's crooked isn't bothering me at all. What's crooked? Maybe my shelves are crooked. This isn't crooked. My mic is crooked. So Melanie is our live streaming guru. And I don't know if I look like I am straight. I am looking directly at the camera. I don't think it's crooked. Maybe. Okay, so I would show y'all all the things going on in the background, and I need to get Melanie to show me how to do my webcam and this camera at the same time. You are sitting on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books on my desk. 6 books on my desk is what this camera is sitting on, because I have not set up, I have a tripod, but the tripod's really big. And then I have this. I can move this one around because it's not being used. Hang on. I got to find a tripod that will work for my desk to be the height. Okay, look at this thing. It looks like an octopus, like a 3-legged octopus. This is what my webcam used to sit on. But now I am not using my webcam. I'm using my new camera. But the only thing is that this doesn't have an attachment to put my camera on top. I use this all the time for my phone because I can turn it this way and turn it that way. I can use this many ways for my phone, and then I can hold it and do all kinds of things with this, but I don't have an attachment for my camera. And this would be tall enough because this is what I use for my webcam, but it's not working right now for my new camera. So yes, Melanie, I need some behind the scene adjustments on the live stream. Hi, Arian. So happy that you're here. How are you? I'm good. It's Taco Tuesday. It's my favorite day of the week. And while you're asking this question, this is a great time to bring this up. So I'm going to be speaking, and I'm actually going to put this. This is cool. We can turn this into a little, hang on. I'm going to turn it into a little ticker at the bottom because that's when it's fun. So Podcast Movement University. This is a brand new thing that they started. I don't know if it started in January, but I know some of the first sessions that I have seen happened in February. And I'm actually going to be speaking today. And it's free. It's free to attend. And so far, we have a whole bunch of people coming for our session. So I'm going to be speaking on a panel about podcast marketing. It's at 3 p.m. Central. Okay, I know I can do this. 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Pacific. Oh man, you don't even understand. Like a time zone conversion in the moment, like that is a big deal to me because time zones have always confused me. If you want to get like throw another one in there, I'm sorry. I know we have some international friends here. I know Arian is across the sea, but I don't even know. That's as far as I can get. I can handle those three time zones. Anything further than that, I'm just no. It took me a long time to get those under my belt. Oh my gosh. But yes, today, y'all, it says podcat. Podcat for the win. Y'all. Oh my gosh. And y'all are just sitting here having a whole conversation about it. Oh, y'all. This is what happens. Okay. Podcat for the win. I love that y'all are just making fun of me in the background. And I don't even know it. I didn't even see it because the chat wasn't open. But you know what? I love y'all. You keep me honest. Oh my gosh. Never get too big for my britches, right? Right? Because it's podcat. LOL. I'm just giving you a hard time. Is it crooked though? Like, do you think it's crooked? Is my head crooked? Am I sitting crooked? I don't know. I feel like it's pretty straight. You are such a pro. Looking beautiful, sounding awesome, being so smart. What is it? We be it crooked? Hang on. We Ebbit crooked? I can't read this hashtag. Oh, I need to stop before, yeah. Oh my gosh. It isn't cricket. It looks perfect. Thank you, Shanita. Thank you. Shanita is the only true one on my team right now. Okay. I don't see Shanita's comments about podcat or anything being crooked or off. So thank you so much, Shanita. I appreciate you got my back. I really do. I think the top screws off and you can add, I know that, no, that's what we were trying to do. Trust me, like my husband and I was like, come on, babe, like you got this. Do y'all ever do that? You're like, open this jar for me. Have one of those, like, it's not cloth, but one of those things you put on the top of a jar and you twist it and like it opens. I was going to try to use that for this, but I cannot get this thing to budge. And I'm like, don't break it. Because I really do use this all the time. Oh my gosh, y'all, we were talking way too much about unscrew the mobile mount bracket, then you can mount the new Sony. I know, that's what I tried to do, and it did not work. Gosh, y'all are just killing me today. Yay, Heather Sager in the house. So Melanie is my live streaming person that is going to be super critical no matter what I do. I'm sure I'll get a message after this and be like, I'm just kidding. But really, this is how you can change it and make it better. She's always making me level up in so many different ways. And Heather has been coaching me about speaking on this panel today at Podcast Movement, not Podcat, Podcast Movement. Heather's been coaching me. Heather's my speaking coach. And I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm like going back and I got my sticky note. I'm ready. Oh, I can't show you what it is. But it's exciting. Okay. I'm going to be talking about 3 things today that are going to be super fun. And Heather's just helping me step it up. Y'all, these comments are just killing me. Bottom scroll says Bobcat. Yeah. Or, look, I said Bobcat. Podcat. Y'all, this is killing me. Y'all are cracking me up. I can't even get to all these comments. Except for this one. I'll throw this one up there. Thank you, Sydney. I so appreciate that. Okay, we did have a point. Of coming here today. And that is, 1, to tell you about Podcast Movement. It's happening today, 3 p.m. Central. And then the podcast audit. So I'm going to turn this one off because that's like the scrolling really gets the ADHD going in everybody. So we're going to stop that. Podcast audits. These are happening on Thursday. If you've never done these before, I started in January. We do a monthly free podcast audit. So in January, I think we did 4 or 5. And then last month we did 2. And this month I'm picking 2 to 5 people and I'm going to audit your podcast live. So what does this mean? This means you can submit an audio clip, like a minute. It's going to be up to, if you submit anything over a minute, I will listen to it, but I'm not going to critique it live. I'll probably just turn it on in the background where I'll listen to it and I'll give you some feedback. And then you can submit your artwork or some graphics. Like if you're working on a marketing design and you want to get some feedback, if you have a soundbite that you're designing, anything like that. Or if you have a PDF of a script or an outline that you would want some feedback on. So go here, you're going to find a Google form that you fill out, you submit it. Those close today because they're happening on Thursday. I need time to pick some winners, and it's going to be a lot of fun. If you've done this in the past, you can still submit. Like, there's no limitations, but we will choose people that haven't done it before, just to be fair, right? We don't want everybody hogging all of the audits, but we're going to do as many as we can in an hour, which is why I say we can do about 2 to 5 in that hour's time. So that's going to be 10:30 is when we're going to start them, 10:30 Central on Thursday, the 11th. So 2 days, okay? 2 days, podcast audits. Okay, now, we've covered all the announcements and all the other shenanigans in the comments. Y'all are kidding me. But maybe I'm being out of date, but I've just discovered Soundwise, the all-audio platform. Arian, I don't know what Soundwise is. I haven't heard of that. So I don't think that you're out of date. I don't know what that is. I'm thinking of Clubhouse, like that's the newest audio platform that is just, all audio only, but I don't know what Soundwise is. So maybe that's something kind of like SoundCloud. I don't know. I don't know what Soundwise is. So I'll have to do some research on that. So no, I don't think that you're out of date because I don't know what that is either. So you're good to go. You're good to go. Tell me more about it in the comments. Tell me what it is or if you have questions about it, and I can do, me, I'm going to do some research and get you some answers on what it is and how we can use it as podcasters, or if it's something that is more for music people or be able to use it in a different way. Today, do you need a co-host for your podcast? This is the question. This is the question of the hour. Can you stand alone on your own 2 feet, or do you need a co-host? Now, be very clear, being very upfront and honest, I don't have a co-host for my podcast. I never have. I'm not going to say never will. It's funny because I put this episode out today and I had several people say, I'll be your co-host. That would be fun. And I'm like, oh, no. This wasn't an open call for co-host because I'm very picky about my schedule and when I record. And as much as I like to be planned, like I have my planner, you should know. If you've been around here for a hot minute, like I got my planner, I got all the things that I'm doing today, which by the way, I love this planner because it has like a month, and then I can go to my week, what I got to do for the week, and then I have my daily stuff. This is really cool. So it's a quarterly planner. I tried the Full Focus planner and I like it, but there was something about it that didn't compute well in my brain. And this one that was like $20 on Amazon works better for me. So I thought I'd give it a try for a quarter, but not a quarter, like an actual quarter, like the dollar amount, but for a quarter of the year. So I'm trying it out. But I like to plan too much that I don't know if I could have a co-host. I'm not going to say it's never in the cards for me, but I don't always like to I like to plan, but I don't like to have the rigidity of like, you have to be at the same time, same place, right here every single week, no matter what, or even every single day. I know people, think about a talk show where you co-host it with someone else. And I know podcasters, some of them are doing live streaming this way, and they have a co-host and they sit down at the same time every single week. So there are some things to consider, but I did want to throw it out there. I don't have a co-host. I don't have experience running an entire show with a co-host, but we do have several in our community. And we have several people that ask this question a lot whenever they're getting started. Can I stand on my own 2 feet? Do I need a co-host? What does this look like? So in today's podcast episode of the Profit Podcast, oh, this is so cool. I love being able to be like, boop, there it is, Profit Podcast. If you've never listened to my show, hang on, I'm going to get it right. One day, I'm going to figure out how you do the webcam or the things. Oh, no, did it wrong. Boop, right there. I just give up. I'm never going to get these things down. But I try to be cool. Nope, there. I'm just like, okay, we're just I'm loopy, guys. I'm losing my mind. Officially, it's happening. I've been on the precipice of that happening, but it's just full blown. We just lost. We're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But yeah, I am, how do I say this? Very opinionated when it comes to co-host, because I think of it like a full-blown relationship. I really do. And I have dubbed myself a podcast therapist. There's no licensing for this. I just totally made it up. But I'm like, I am now a podcast therapist. And I do not want to counsel you and your co-host because someone has totally dropped the ball. Someone is not showing up when they're supposed to. Someone's not doing like their end of the partnership. So that's why I get a little, I don't know if I can have a co-host. But I wanted to give you, like if you were thinking about that might be something I want to consider or something to explore, I have 5 things I want you to consider. I have some pros and some cons that I want you to think about. This is one thing, like quick side tangent. My husband and I, anytime we make a big decision, whether it's a big purchase, whether it's moving, like we've moved, oh my gosh, y'all, that's a whole other side tangent of a tangent. We've moved so many times together as a couple, but we always create a pros and cons list, always. Like a sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle, pros, cons, all the time, anytime we have to make a big decision. And so I think that with having a co-host on your show, you should do the same thing. Right? What are your pros and your cons? Like, oh, a pro is I don't have to do this by myself, but a con, maybe one of you is more motivated than the other. Okay? You got like go into this kind of tippy-toeing into the relationship unless it's somebody that you know really, really well. A pet peeve of mine is I will go into a podcast community, whether it's a Facebook group or, somewhere else, and I see people asking, hey, I'm looking for a co-host. Do you want to be my co-host? Like, do you remember, what was it? It was a children's book. I don't remember. Is it the Are You My Mother? That's what I feel like. It's like, are you my mother? Do you want to be my co-host? Remember, it's like the little baby bird and he's like walking around everywhere and he's like, are you my mother? And I feel like people just go like, hey, do you want to be my co-host? And it's like, you don't even know each other. There's no like speed dating, like situation, like, hey, let's hop on a Zoom call and see if we'd be a good fit. It's like, hey, I have an open call for whoever wants to join my show. You want to come, like, be part of this relationship? And then people want to know why they crashed and burned and they hate their podcast. They don't like their content. They're totally disconnected from their audience. It's because you don't know your co-host. And you jumped into this relationship too quickly. This is where I turn into the relationship, like, podcast therapist that I am, totally unqualified. But, I'm just saying, it happens. It's not good unless you have a plan, okay? There's so many things that we're talking about. Oh my gosh. Are you my mother? Yeah, great visual. I'm just glad somebody knew what I was talking about. Is that a Dr. Seuss book? I was like, if that's a Dr. Seuss book, should I talk? Like, I don't want to bring up any of the things going on out in the world. Let's stay in our little podcast bubble right now. I think that that's what it is, though. But that's like, he walks up to the dog. It's like, are you my mother? He walks up to the boat. Y'all, it's been a long time. I think I have this book upstairs, too, which is even sadder. I'm pretty sure my children own this book. And I'm thinking he, like, asks a tree or something. It's been a long time since I read that, but you don't want to do that. Yeah, it is a beginner reader for sure. And I'm pretty sure I need to get my 5-year-old to start reading that one. Oh my gosh, y'all, this is so funny. So funny. So funny. Okay, I want to go back to Laura real fast. She said, I have so many planners. That makes me feel better because I have so many planners too. I have my digital calendar, I have my paper calendar, and then I have like my scribble notes everywhere. So I love that. Yes. Are you open to appearing on someone else's podcast to share your expertise with their audience? Shanita, are you asking me? Are you asking are you asking me to come on your podcast? What does this mean? Like, send me a DM on Instagram or send me an email if that's what you're talking about. Are you open to appear on someone else's podcast to share your expertise with their audience? Because I am open to being on other podcasts. But I always make sure that my audience that I'm going to be appearing in front of aligns with my goals and who I really want to speak to, because I want to speak to entrepreneurs that are trying to start, launch, and market their podcast. So let me know. Yeah, send me a DM. Send me a DM. I love that, y'all. Podcast therapist. Like, I feel like I need to make my own certificate and put it on the wall absolutely make it ridiculous looking so people know it's not a legit thing at all. But maybe it could be. Maybe it could be. Yeah. Ask a tree. I don't know what it was. Like I feel like it was a boat. Why am I imagining this big boat on there? Maybe I'm thinking, I know what I'm thinking of. I'm blending two Dr. Seuss books together. It's Go Dogs Go and Are You My Mother? And I'm imagining the dog being on a boat. Y'all, this is what a weird segue going on in my head. So let's go back to pros and cons. Pros and cons of having a co-host. So I'm going to show you the, here we go. So I'm going to take this down for a second so it's not in the way, but you can see where you can find today's podcast episode 235. But on here, you'll come down. So here are the 5 things to consider: schedules, motivation levels, goals, consistency, and messaging. Go listen to the episode because I shared all the different perspectives because I think that all of these are really important, but they all also go together. Like you can't just say, oh, we have the same goals, we're going to be perfect for each other. Or we can schedule this at the same time every single week. I know this is going to be awesome. So I think back to when my youngest was a baby. We lived in this small town, not where we live now. And we had MOPS. If anybody's ever heard of that, it's mothers of preschoolers. And it's usually at a church. So it's like, I think it was like once or twice a month. I don't remember how often it was, but you would meet together, you would do kind of like a Bible study, and you would have, time where the kids were in daycare and all the moms got to congregate and hang out and talk and, just chat. And we would do some sort of Bible study, devotional type thing. And I think about those women were all on the same schedule, right? We all got to go to the same place, same time, however often it was. But not all of us had the same message. Not all of us had the same motivation to be there, right? Some people were there just to drop their kids off at daycare and get like an hour to themselves. Like, oh my gosh, I can breathe, have somebody watch my kids. I get to hang out with other people. Some people were there for hanging out with other people. Some people were there because they wanted to do a Bible study and learn a specific part of the Bible or whatever it was. But I thought it was so interesting to think about this example because just because everybody can be on the same schedule and show up at the same place, same time every single week does not mean that they have the same motivation to be there or that they have the same goals. I think that this is really, really important. And like I said, all of these build on top of one another. So you can't have one without the other. I think that all 5 of these are just as important. And I want you to go listen to today's episode to really hear the examples that we shared in there, especially about the motivation levels. Like this is where I see myself being very hypercritical of having a co-host on my podcast because I know what my show is about. I know who my audience is and I know what I'm motivated to do. And if someone weren't as excited about podcasting, which I'm going to be honest, there's probably not a lot of people that are as excited about podcasting as I am. And that would be really frustrating for me. So if you have a topic and you're like, oh, well, I know 5 other people in this industry, they do kind of the same thing. Maybe we could get together and like me and one other person could start this podcast. Well, then you find out their motivation was just to share their message with this one specific part of their audience, but you want to go broader or you want to like talk about different topics and you want to interview people. And they're like, no, I just want to continue the conversations, whether it's solo or just me and you, but I don't want to do interviews. That doesn't work with my motivation. Well, you're going to have some friction in your relationship. And I can just see, it's kind of like when you watch someone that's in a bad relationship and the writing is on the wall. I see this all the time, y'all. I'm a fly on the wall in so many podcast communities. And I see it all the time where somebody will like, they're just griping and complaining about their co-host like very openly. And I'm like, I hope that your co-host isn't coming here and look for something and they stumble across all the things that you've said, because it's like they're not showing up. They're not, keeping up their end of the deal. It's almost like gossiping, like behind your husband's back or something. Like you're just like, oh, they're just blabbing to other people, but you're not actually bringing to the table the issues that you're having with your co-hosting partner. So these are the things that, again, I have my podcast therapist. I feel like it wouldn't be a beret, but it would be like my podcast therapist hat. What kind of hat would a therapist wear? I don't even know. But these are the things that I want you to consider. Like I said, I go into detail, a lot of depth on why these things are important. But I want to dive into the pros and cons, because like we said, we have the pros and cons. I kind of went a little bit back and forth on, because some of them kind of like your strengths can be your biggest weaknesses too. And your like vice versa, your biggest weakness could be your biggest strength. Some of these can go that way because like the first pro is you don't have to talk to yourself. Some people have issues talking to themselves on solo episodes. This is the number one complaint that I get of when I tell people to get out of their comfort zone and do solo episodes. They're like, but then I have to talk to myself and I have to pretend that there's someone on the other end of the microphone actually listening to me. So they get very, very uncomfortable. And then that's when I would recommend, well, maybe you could have a co-host or someone that just shows up, like maybe a co-host relationship that's not every single episode. Maybe you put out 4 episodes a month, and once a month you bring in your co-host. It's I'm thinking of like a guest co-host, like a guest appearance. I'm thinking like talk shows, where they'll have like, oh, like here's my guest co-host for the day, and they come in, but then they do it quite often, whether it's once a quarter or once a month, whatever that looks like. But I do think this is a way for you to ease into having someone help you with your show, and you don't have to do all of your solo episodes. I would actually be open to that kind of partnership with a podcast. If it was a guest appearance that they showed up every once in a while. We knew what we were going to talk about. It was someone just as passionate as me, but maybe we didn't have the same schedule like we talked about earlier, but we knew that we would work well together. So that could definitely be an option. Another pro is you can rely on someone else's knowledge and experience. There are so many people that I've encountered in my network of podcast experts that know, oh my gosh, y'all, so much more about the intricacies of audio and equipment and doing all kinds of really fancy things behind the scenes. And I'm like, I don't even know I don't even know what you're doing. I get the basics and I do what I can manage on my own, what I can Google, or what I can have someone like Melanie who's more, she's more techie. And I go with the bare minimum when it comes to technology, because I do what gets me by and what I'm happy with, what produces great quality. But if you had an expert, someone who you knew was a lot better, someone commented earlier in our free Facebook group, she was saying that it was her and her husband, and she handles one part of the podcast duties and he handles the other. I think that she does more of the front end of like the planning of the content and creating it and like getting everything together. And then he does more of the editing and like the back end IT stuff. And I think that kind of relationship, relying on someone else's expertise, could be really helpful and make for a great partnership. And then of course it's just fun to chat with someone else. I think that that just kind of goes with having great chemistry and being able to really enjoy what someone else, like you just enjoy that other person. But it goes back to, they're not a stranger. They're not someone that you meet on the street and say, hey, you want to be my co-host? You want to be my podcast co-host? I just couldn't even imagine that working out really well. Maybe it would. Maybe, 1 in a million chance that would be the perfect fit. But that just seems really, I don't know. I don't think they would work out well for me. I'll just put it out there like that. And maybe it worked for you. It would not work well for me. And then the cons are, will you outgrow one another? Oh, that's like the worst. Like I have actually outgrown, I was on Heather Sager's show. So Heather, I don't know if you're still here. And if you can put a link to it, but Heather and Melanie and I, like we're business besties, even though we joke about that term that we're just like, oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous. But I was on her podcast recently and we were talking about being in accountability groups. And I shared that, I've been in many accountability groups over my online business journey. And I did outgrow a lot of them. Like there were some that were awesome. Like we talked all the time. And then there was other ones where people just weren't as motivated. And it's really frustrating. Maybe it's not frustrating for everybody, but whenever you're a super motivated person, it is very frustrating to not be like, it doesn't feel like everybody's like keeping up their end of the bargain. And this is what I see often. I will see in these podcasting groups, people talk about, man, I do everything. And my co-host just shows up and they just want to do the recording. They don't want to do any of the marketing. They don't want to help me find guests. They don't want to help me do the transcripts. They don't want to do blah, blah, blah. They just want to show up, talk, and then leave. And I'm like, well, they're not holding up their end of the bargain. This is when I go back to my podcast therapist. I feel like I want to tell you to come in, sit down. We're going to light a candle. We're going to be calm. We're going to hold a pillow. I'm going to make you feel comfortable. And you're going to tell me about your feelings with your co-host. And it's most likely that you need to part ways because one of you is more motivated than the other. And I see this. I see it all the time, all the time, all the time. And the next con is what happens if one person wants out, but somebody else wants to keep going. These are just questions that I thought of that would be helpful for you to think about before you really dive into a co-hosting relationship. And then the last one is splitting assets and revenue when you start making money. And that can be really messy if it's not handled properly. Like this could be a really big deal if you don't know how to split everything up. And if you don't know how to, like, if you're not an LLC, like if you just go into this and you're like, hey, I'm going to contribute $50 and I'm going to do $50. We're going to buy this equipment and we're going to set up our hosting and then we'll eventually get a website. And, you both start paying money in and then all of a sudden it takes off. Let's imagine that you're monetizing, but then someone else has a life change and they're like, I don't have time for this anymore. This isn't going to work out for me. And then the other person's like, well, so you want out, but I want to keep going. How do we split up our assets? How do we divide the revenue? How do we keep this whole charade going when one person wants to leave? So I don't like to be the Debbie Downer, but I think that these are all really important questions to ask yourself and things that you can absolutely think about before you ever dive into it's just so funny because I'm like a co-host relationship because that's really what it is. It sounds silly to say that, but yeah, that's absolutely what it is. So after this goes to YouTube, it will be there. Oh, did I miss something? I don't know what this part was, Laura. Creative collaboration is complicated. It's so complicated. It really is. And I like the status of your co-host relationship. Like it shouldn't be, it's complicated. I don't know that people really talk about that anymore, but I was dying. I remember when Facebook first came out, I was in college. I signed up for Facebook my freshman year of college. It came out, I think, the year that I was a senior in high school. And my brother was on Facebook because he was 2 years older than me. He was already in college. And I remember them talking about the concept of the single dating, it's complicated, or something like single, married, it's complicated. And I just crack up so much because I think that is what a co-hosting relationship can absolutely be if you don't have your shiitake together. If you don't have things figured out, it's very likely it's going to be it's complicated situation because they just kind of start avoiding one another and like you just need to walk away. You need to walk away from that relationship. It's just like any other relationship. Totally like any other relationship. Sydney, I need a crown. Is that what I need for my podcast therapist? I need to have a crown. I need a certificate on the wall somewhere back here. I am your certified podcast therapist. How do you say it? Would that be self-certified? I don't know, like something to do with like I'm a self-imposed podcast therapist. I crochet. Yes. Okay. So what I'm missing what this part is, the crochet and then the YouTube. So I didn't understand what that was. Speaking of networks, your Stream Deck is great. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is, I'm using StreamYard and I love this platform so much. It makes everything really easy, really simple to use. While others fuss around the tech, you are out there doing it and sounding awesome. Thank you so much, Sydney. That's so sweet. And yeah, I just don't think that there's a lot to be said about someone who has some really fancy pieces of equipment and not a lot to say. And I feel like that's kind of like a mic drop. So I'm going to say that again. I don't see what is so important about having super fancy $1 million studios, tons of equipment, and really high dollar things if you don't have anything important to say. And that's really a basic principle that I stand on very firmly with my company, with my podcast, with anything that I do. I think that doing it scrappy really, really is the way to go. And so many of us, we see our mentors, we see people that, especially with podcasting, I mean, podcasting has been around long enough to have people that are super successful. They're making entire livings just on their podcast. And it's kind of hard for a stay-at-home mom with a $20 microphone. Oh, wait, I'm going to get it. Other way. That microphone right there is my $20, my very first microphone that I started with. There was no live streaming of my podcast. There was none of anything of what you see right now. It was just, I have an important message to share. I'm just going to get started. And whoa, has there been an evolution of my journey. Holy moly. So much so that I leave everything is there. If you've ever listened to my podcast, everything from the very beginning of my journey to today is there. All the badly recorded podcast episodes, the one where the audio is so bad. I had someone message me. It was a good friend of mine. She was like, Crystal, I love the sentiment behind your podcast. I love what you're doing, but my ears are bleeding because your audio is awful. And I was just like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for letting me know. But I just was going. I was just put it out there and keep going. And I leave all that there. So if you want to hear some really bad audio, please go back and listen to my first ones. I didn't go back and change them. I have Magic Mastering on my podcast now. So this is a tool within Buzzsprout that you can use, and it like makes it all sound super crisp and clear and everything sounds fantastic. I didn't have those applied on every single episode. You can go back and listen to the ones that it was not applied to and hear a very big difference in the audio, but it is what it is. Like that's how it was whenever I first got started. So it's what it is now. And I just don't look back on really where I started. I just look back and say, hey, I'm glad I started when I did because look at all the growth that has happened. So I hope that that's going to be your experience podcasting as just getting it out there. Yeah. Like marrying a blind date. Oh my gosh. Yes. I cannot even imagine just asking someone, hey, you want to be my co-host? And then like it being just a train wreck, being a total train wreck. Yes. Oh my gosh. So that's all I have about having a co-host. Go listen to today's episode. You can go see the examples. And I link to them in the show notes of the ones that I really love, because there are some shows that do this really, really well that I listen to all the time, which is why I feel very qualified to talk about co-hosting a podcast, simply for the fact that I see so much behind the scenes of things that aren't working well and some things that are working well that I want you to go check out these. The number one podcast episode that's been downloaded on my show is the Office Ladies case study. And this cracks me up because I have no idea why. I really don't. So if anybody's here and like you love that episode, if you listen to that episode, it's your favorite, tell me why. Because I want to know. Because I am totally baffled, dumbfounded that this episode continues to be my number one most downloaded episode. I don't know if it's the SEO is awesome and people find it when they Google the Office Ladies podcast. I don't know what it is, but I would love to know. But they have a fantastic co-hosting relationship that I love it so much. I'm actually going to be talking about them a little bit today at Podcast Movement about what I've learned from them, what they do really well, and how I think other people can add personality into what they're doing with their podcast and have it be something incredible, just like the Office Ladies. So again, this is a Podcast Movement University. This is going on today. It is 100% free. Go registered, podcastmovementuniversity.com. I have a hair. It's driving me nuts. It like keeps like going right in my mouth. I'm like, stop, please. Thank you. So go registered, Podcast Movement, podcast audits. These are happening on Thursday. If you want to register before 5 p.m. Central today because the apps are closing. And this is our free monthly audits where you can have your podcast audited by me. So make sure you go fill that out. And then I will be choosing 2 to 5 people by, I think I'm going to announce everybody tomorrow. And then it will actually be happening on Thursday. So yeah, thank you so much for this. You always bring so much value. You're so welcome, Sydney. I'm happy that you're here today. And Laura and Shanita and everybody else that was able to be here today. Heather, Melanie, everybody that was here live. Arian, I didn't know if you were still here, Arian, but thank you for being here. These are always so much fun. And I would love it if you would share with someone else that they would find this helpful. And that's all I have for y'all. Y'all, it's Taco Tuesday, my favorite day of the week. Come hang out with me 3 p.m. Central for Podcast Movement University. And that's it. That's all I have. So remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Bye, y'all.